Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the Samson QU9, a professional broadcast quality microphone that works with both XLR and USB connections. It's also affordable, coming in at under £200 or $200, which makes it potentially very appealing, doubly so when I tell you that I'm using the microphone to capture the voiceover for this video, so you get an idea of what the quality's like. Also, this audio that you're hearing now with me talking is actually recorded with a USB-C connection rather than XLR. Later in the video I'll be showing you what it sounds like with XLR, which is even better. But with USB-C you can connect to your PC and get 24-bit 96 kHz audio resolution capture, which is potentially very wonderful as well. It also has a number of other nice features to it that I'll show as I go through this unboxing video and setup. And I'm going to talk to you about what you get in the box and the extras that you'll need and the lowlights and highlights of this microphone. It is obviously affordable, and yet it delivers a really good capture quality, which is very similar to my usual mic that I use, which is a Shure SM7B, which costs about twice the amount of money, so substantially more, and yet delivers a very similar sound. There are, of course, some caveats to that you will notice as I go through, and as I talk to you about the lowlights of it later on. However, it is an interesting microphone and a very nice setup. Certainly appealing thanks to having that USB-C connection and the XLR, because it gives you the option to start out by purchasing it, for example, and then using it with USB, and then later on upgrade into an XLR setup with a Go XLR or a Rode Podcaster Pro or something like that setup that allows you to have a preamp, connect it with an XLR cable, and make the most of the sound, because obviously it runs the best and gives you the best audio when you put it on a boom arm and connect it with an XLR cable to a capable preamp. Inside the box, as you'll see, you don't get very much. You get the microphone itself, a large windshield, some documentation, and a couple of USB cables. So USB-C to USB-C and USB-C to USB-A. So those obviously can be used to connect to your PC. As I will show later on, it will also capture on Android phones as well, thanks to that connection, which is pretty awesome. But there are no XLR cables included in the box. There's also no stand, as you'll see, so there's nothing to attach it to. Obviously, you don't want to just put it on your desk, as I've just done, and then try and use it to capture audio, because you won't get good results out of it. But here you can see the USB-C cable on the left. That's the one that I'm currently using to do this voiceover with. And you'll see on the back where you get to plug that in, as well as a headphone jack for mic monitoring and buttons to allow you to adjust the mid-range presence and the bass roll-off, and I'll show you the difference those buttons make later on in the video as well. And then obviously centrally to that you have the XLR connection, which you then buy a cable separately, plug it into that, and then plug it into a preamp like the Go XLR Mini, or other options, and that, as I said, will deliver the best possible sound. But as you can see, already delivers a really rich sound and a good quality. Also has a mic mute button on it and a very nice large windshield. It's also intelligently built with a cardioid polar pickup pattern, which is designed to get the best effect when you put it close to your mouth. And obviously that dual layer windshield minimizes popping and plosives, and apparently is great for vocals, as I'm doing narration and more. And it does also have an internal shock mount, but we'll discuss more on that later on, because actually the shock capabilities of this microphone are one of the areas where it fails in my mind. That's not to say you should dismiss it though, because it does still do a very good job for this price point. This XLR microphone cable I've purchased separately, and I'll give you a link in the description. It's purchased off Amazon, fairly affordable. You can get all sorts of XLR cables for your setup, and then you need to find a suitable preamp in order to do it. But what you'll see here is essentially what you've got: the microphone, the windshield, the cables, and that's it. You'll see it comes with a stand that allows you to connect it to a boom arm. It will fit on any standard boom arm, as long as you have the right adapters to fit the thread. And I'm going to show it installed on the Rode PSA1 and a process for doing that. But as you'll see, a very premium looking microphone, understated, not too in your face, some very nice accents on it, a good solid design, a nice build quality. This is the third Samson microphone I've seen, and I've always been impressed with them. They offer a really good capture quality at a reasonably affordable price point, and it has quite a number of features to it. Obviously, the combination of USB-C and XLR as an option is wonderful. It is really welcome to have those capabilities and options together in a affordable price point. So now I'm going to show you the process for attaching it to a boom arm. As I said, this is the Rode PSA1, which is a reasonably affordable, a very good quality boom arm, which is well reviewed and much loved. I've done a video on it separately, but this is the process for it. And that Rode PSA1 comes with this extra thread mount, which is a gold adapter that you can use to attach to the standard thread, which makes it larger and then will make it fit with a Samson microphone, because as a standard it wouldn't fit on there because it has a large adapter on the bottom of it. And you'll see that then screws in with this bottom bit, and that then attaches the mic to the boom arm. As I said, I'd highly recommend getting a boom arm. You can opt for a desk stand as an alternative, but I'm going to show you why you shouldn't in a minute. And that's because, unfortunately, this thing will pick up a lot of background noise if you're not careful. It's also worth getting it as close to your mouth as possible, because then you can minimize background noise by turning the gain down, but also it just has a richer sound to it when you do that. But if you have the money to spend on a good boom arm and a good XLR setup, it is worth doing. It's really nice to have for access to be able to use the USB-C connection, because it makes it more affordable, or USB-C to USB-A, because you can buy this microphone and then slowly upgrade your gear, starting out with the USB. And as you can see, the audio capture with USB is actually very good anyway. You can hear me talking now using that USB-C connection on PC. I've got it set to 96 kilohertz 24-bit within Windows sound settings, and it's picking up some really great sound. But you will notice the difference in a minute when I switch to the XLR connection, and I'll show you the difference between that. Now, this Rode PSA1 obviously isn't the only option available. You could purchase another one. I really like the Blue Compass boom arm, but I would certainly recommend not skimping on it, and I'll show you why. So once you've got it installed on there with the Rode boom arm, that has a mount that goes on the desk. Very simple affair, basically just screws in. It has a nice solid base plate to it with some good padding on it as well, which is pretty important, because one of the things that this microphone struggles with is knocks and sounds being picked up from the desk. As I'll show in a minute, it's not too bad at picking up things like keyboard noises, as long as you have it away from the keyboard, as in pointing at yourself rather than towards your desk or near the keyboard. Then it does a good job of focusing on your own voice. But what I just found a minute ago is if I'm in the room with my wife behind me typing on her keyboard, that is problematic. And that isn't the USB connection. I actually have noticed a much better experience when in XLR, but that's because the XLR setup can compensate with noise gate settings and other things to improve the audio. So I'll show you that now. And here we are recording audio with the microphone, and I want to show you the capture quality of it and also some other things of interest. So, for example, you'll note that there are two cables coming out of it currently, and that's because you can do this, which is record on your phone and on your PC at the same time. So I'm using an XLR cable going into the Go XLR and then recording audio using OBS, but I'm also recording on my Pixel phone at the same time using the USB-C connection, which is pretty incredible. So you can record two audio sources, or at least the same audio source, on two different devices at the same time, which is a really nice option. I don't know why you would use this, but I'm sure there are use cases why you might want to do this and have multiple recordings in multiple places. I probably personally wouldn't use it for this, but I think the fact that you can do it is really awesome. Also, this app is Google Recorder, which means that these recordings are now accessible on the web with ease as well, so that's a really awesome effect. One of the other things that I've noticed is that unfortunately the microphone does pick up some knocks, and I only noticed this really when I plugged in the USB-C cable, but I have picked it up in certain bumps on the desk. Now, this is a Rode PSA1, which is a fairly decent boom arm, And obviously getting it on a boom arm and off the desk is very important because it reduces the knocks and it also allows you to get the microphone closer to your mouth. And as you'll hear, the capture quality is really good. Actually comparable with the Shure SM7B, which is my usual favourite and a very premium microphone. And the Samsung mic is doing a very good job of capturing audio, but you will notice, for example, if I tap the USB-C cable, you'll probably hear it. Now, you're not likely to do that, but you might move it, especially if you're using it on your phone. I'm not bashing that into the boom arm or anything, but you can still hear the taps. So even if, look, I'll just show you. That obviously isn't ideal. It's not a great thing for you to be able to pick up like that. If I start typing on a desk, though, see, it doesn't pick up much in terms of background noise. What you will have noticed is there was a couple of moments there where, but if I'm tapping on the keyboard, and you probably can't hear very much of it, but if I start to tap on my desk, you can. And that's just a gentle tap. So some of the shocks are going through into the microphone. I feel like it's a lot more sensitive than the Shure SM7B, for example. That mic doesn't pick up those bumps and knocks as easily. Yes, it's on a slightly different boom arm, but I've tried other microphones on the PSA1 which don't have that problem. And so there are some complaints with it. I think if you have it on a decent boom arm and you're very careful not to knock the desk or the cables, then it won't be an issue. Obviously, also, the capture quality with the Go XLR is fantastic. I'll leave the settings that I've got on it within the description so you can see what the settings I have on the Go XLR to get this capture quality, but I actually didn't change it. I didn't change what the settings were for what I usually use on the Shure, and so it was basically a case of just swapping between them, and it still captures a really good sound, a really good quality. I've been using it for a few different voiceovers on recent videos in place of my Shure just for testing purposes, and I don't think that people would even notice the difference. Maybe it's not quite as rich in terms of bass and the audio range, but as you can see and hear now, the audio capture quality is obviously fantastic. Also, the range on it isn't too bad, but what you want to do is get as close as possible for the best quality audio, and that's the same sort of logic. Obviously, this windshield also helps with the but you can take it off. And when you do, the sound is fantastic. Obviously, you then have the potential for a lot more wind to go in there. It certainly looks a lot nicer like this, though, and the windshield is quite a chunky beast. But I would suggest that keeping it on is probably the better option. The other thing is the buttons at the back. So there's roll-off buttons and a mid button. So if I switch these on, which apparently is very fiddly. There we go. Oh wow, you can already hear quite a difference there. So that's the roll-off button. This is with that roll-off set to flat, and this is with it set the other way. A very noticeable difference, and maybe the bass and the richness. Actually, that's a lot nicer. That's a better capture quality there, I think. And then the mids at the top, just above the cable. Obviously, this isn't something you'd want to do on the fly, but just switching between them, you can hear a little bit of a difference and a quality difference there. So one other thing is that there's a mic mute button on the top here, which is obviously going to pick up the sound when I press the button. It's very difficult to engage or disengage it without that donk, donk. It's not too bad, but I think hardware level mutes are better. So for example, on the Go XLR or even in software level, rather than having to touch the microphone. So it does capture a really good quality of sound, but with some caveats in that you really need to make sure it's off the desk and on a really good quality boom arm. Maybe a shock mount might help it. It doesn't come with a stand of any sort. The boom arm's obviously separate and a very essential purchase, so I wouldn't cheap out on a boom arm if you're purchasing this microphone. If you do, you will suffer the consequences of hearing a lot of knocking noises in it. Perhaps something chunkier like their Blue Compass might be more effective than the Rode. It is a good quality boom arm though, but if you buy a very cheap one, you'll probably find you hear a lot more knocks and bumps in it, which would be very distracting and could potentially ruin your audio. What I'm going to do now is to leave a little bit of a sample of the clip that I recorded on my phone so that you can hear the difference between an XLR capture and the USB capture. So you're going to hear the same audio that you heard at the beginning of this video with some B-roll from the microphone, but it will show you the difference in the audio quality so you can see between the two. Because you can do this, which is record on your phone and on your PC at the same time. So I'm using an XLR cable going into the Go XLR and then recording audio using OBS, but I'm also recording on my Pixel phone at the same time using the USB-C connection, which is pretty incredible. So you can record two audio sources, or at least the same audio source, on two different devices at the same time, which is a really nice option. So there you have it. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful and given you some interesting insight into the Samson QU9. It is an appealing microphone for the price with a few minor complaints, but is very feature rich and potentially a really good addition to your setup. Perfect for streamers, people doing voiceovers and content creators like myself that are looking for an affordable USB microphone that's potentially upgradable to XLR in the future. Let me know if you've got any questions in the comments below. Thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful, interesting, hilarious, or otherwise. Take a look at these other videos that I think you might find interesting as well. And have a look at the description for links and other information you might find useful. Click that join button to see the benefits of being a member of my YouTube channel. And most importantly, have a great life.